Welcome to another episode of Humanly Plausible with your hosts, Rolly and Richard from the Pink Collective.
Well, today we have another episode of Humanly Plausible where we're going to choose one of our favorite topics or any topic out of the box, because the box has so far been pleasantly surprising for everything we've pulled out of it.
It's always relevant, always a good conversation. Hope everybody's having a wonderful 2024 thus far. It might be a little bit late because I don't think we've said anything to anybody about the new year so far.
No, so we haven't. Happy New Year. And for those that don't know, the box concept is something that we decided to do because we just felt like our conversations were a bit scripted and we were too prepared. So, and one of the main reasons we wanted to have these conversations was to really, shed some insight on a lot of things that we talk about concerning marketing and communications.
And I think the symbolism of being out the box kind of ties into our theme for 2024 here at the Pink Collective. And Rolly, would you want to share that theme with everyone?
The human. Wait. Of what?
Our theme for Pink Collective.
Empowering positive brands.
No, that's our mantra.
Humanly plausible.
The theme for 2024 is
Dare to be bold. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Once again, he's fasting.
Yeah, so I'm doing a 3-day cleanse, and so my mind is all over the place. So our theme for 2024, and something that we felt, not just something that we wanted to share with the clients, but we felt was also internally equally important, was for us to continue to be bold in the efforts that we're trying to make, which is to really connect people to purpose. And which, again, advertising overall is people communication. And so that's why it's so equally important that this year and moving forward, that we understand that ultimately it's about being bold and doing what's right.
And once again, reconnecting that concept to our out-the-box concept here is one of the goals we have when we're supporting clients and developing campaigns and brand strategies is we don't want to be confined to what has already been done, what's already been proven. If we're going to dare to be bold, we have to think out the box, and that's what we do.
Yeah, and sometimes, I've just been recently reminded of what that means. Sometimes you're trying to please everyone in the work that we do, because our issue is a lot of times is that you want to please a client, you want to keep a client happy, but sometimes you also have to share with them some stuff that they're not going to like. But and some of these things are things that we know that strategically are going to make sense, and based on our experience in the many years that we've been doing this, we have a lot of track history that we can pull from and say, well, we've done that before, and we know for a fact that's, not going to work. And not only that, but a lot of the work that we do is analytically driven.
And, Rolly kind of referred to this before, our mantra, which is empowering positive brands. I think it's sometimes we use the word empower so much that we forget the last part of that word, power. And in order to have that power, there has to be a certain sense of boldness. And that is what we're committed to. A positive brand always seems to sometimes be the best kept secret in their sector, in their industry, because they've not exerted the power of being bold and offering the significant differentiation, which puts them in a class by itself. And that's what we're focused on when we support our clients. But to Rolly's point, sometimes it's not comfortable. And I am here, Rolly's here, we're all here to remind you that comfort is the enemy of achievement. So seek discomfort whenever necessary and whenever possible. So,
all right, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and open the box. I don't know whose turn it is now, but Richard, I think you can do the honors.
Okay, so
right now, we'll see where this journey will go today.
So, the box. All right, we're going to mix it up first.
I don't know how you make so much noise with that box.
I know.
I'm a noisy guy. My wife cooking.
Okay, this is a very general question. Well, not general. It's more of a organizational question. When faced with two equally qualified candidates, how do you determine who to hire?
Oh, that's an easy one for me.
All right, well, it's easy. Go, you jump right into it, brother.
All right, so for me, especially, and I want to be clear on that. I'm in my mid 40s, so I've done a lot of hiring in the past. So these days, I'm more focused on emotional intelligence than I am in the hard skills. I believe that the hard skills are things that we can work through. And what I mean by that is that if I'm looking after people that are going to work alongside me that are going to be equally as passionate.
Yeah.
And that really align with my values too, because that's what it's really going to come down to. It's what's inside them and what drives them. And it also depends on the role. So depending on the role, I'm looking for specific characteristics. So there's the hard skills and the soft skills. So I think ultimately, truly what I'm looking for is like, how are they different as people?
Yeah, I do think there's an element of that in my thought pattern in terms of it's not how much you know, but how do you think? I think that's important to me. And once again, have you identified a sense of purpose, or is this as a job for you? What can you bring to the table that comes from a place of passion versus a place of necessity? I need a check. And this is what I learned in college, so I guess I should be pursuing this. And with good vetting and a good qualitative conversation and a series of conversations, hopefully you can get to that point and sort of differentiate between two seemingly equal people as to some of the more intangible parts of who they are that can bring value to you.
And I think it's important based on the position, because if you think through positions, so like not just advertising, but like in general, like an IT person, would you want an IT person to be emotional? I've never met one. I mean, usually they're really angry people. I don't know why. So IT people out there,
I'm sure the IT people will be coming after Rolly Rodriguez, but I love IT people. In fact, some of my best friends are IT people. But to your point.
Well, obviously I'm generalizing, but what I'm saying is that all the IT people I've come across basically talk down to me, and which is fine. I don't care. Ultimately I don't see. That's what I'm saying is like what I want in an IT person is for them to know their stuff. So when I come to them, they're like, "Yeah, I got it. I'm going to take. I know what to do." So somebody strong that's going to take control, action driven, not like going to start talking to me about
Well, you know what? It's interesting because I think that
And not that I want to focus on IT.
No, but I think that sometimes part of it too is the connection with the team. So yes, there are IT people who are, maybe traditionally very focused on the work. They're very about the numbers and the details because they're troubleshooters. They are.
Different mind.
Yeah. Different mindset, different focus. However, going back to the question about two equally suited people in terms of their resumes, in terms of their skills, if I found one that seemed to be able to collaborate and communicate better with the team, that person will be more valuable to me. Because, for example, if we decide to change a CRM or we decide to add some new technology, and that IT person has to work with the team in terms of training, in terms of for them to understand the integration process and explain certain things, the person who has better communicative and collaborative skills is going to be of more value to me than the person who's really good at what they do but struggles to communicate with the team and struggles to gain trust with the team.
Okay. Probably going to get a backlash with IT people. I can feel it.
I think some of them might even agree with you.
Yeah. So let me, based on this question, talk to me about your personal interesting hires, things that you've seen kind of roll out this way. Anything you can think about specifically. Because in the school system and marketing and advertising, so you've hired and fired from different aspects of business.
Yeah. I think it's one of the things I would say is that we have to understand that the hiring process will never be an exact science. No. Some people are able to, during the interview and hiring process, put their best foot forward and almost, I don't want to say sell you a false bill of goods. However, you don't get a chance to really evaluate them in a real setting until you hire them.
Yep.
You're going on to your best knowledge. I think the better follow-up is the fact that in my career, I kind of adapted, and I think I shared with you one time before, this element of cash, K-A-S-H, in which I evaluate people and I see what their cash value to the organization is within the first 30 to 60 days. K is knowledge, A is attitude, S is skills, H are habits. So knowledge and skills are probably the things that are easier for me to assess. Do they know what they're doing? You can see that right away. Attitudes and habits are usually the deal breakers. If their attitude is one of which they only do what their job description says, that could be problematic because they're not willing to go above and beyond. Not that I want to, exploit them as much as know that if there's a project that we have to get done and it doesn't necessarily fall within this very small purview, that they're willing to explore ways in which to be of value still, even though it doesn't stay within that box. Habits. Can I count on you? Are you reliable? Are you punctual? When we have a meeting, are you going to be there, especially if there's a presentation so that the client, so the attitudes and habits are the things that usually, to me, make or break if this relationship is going to be a long-lasting one. And the other thing is, what am I willing to tolerate? There's sometimes you'll have a person who has the purpose, the passion, but they struggle a little bit. Maybe they're not as great in Excel or they're not as great in this. I might be able to tolerate that person because they're willing to take an Excel class because they know they're suffering. So I see that as them saying, I know I'm deficient in this, but I'm willing to do the work. And then there are people who I'm not going to tolerate because they may be the most skilled person in the world, but they're toxic to my culture. And I can't tolerate that because that's going to have long-lasting negative impact.
So any crazy regret hires or any crazy awesome ones that you were surprised? That you're like, wow, I can't believe that. I mean, anything.
I remember
some crazy one.
I remember one of my most surprising hires was a wonderful, wonderful young lady who had come to apply to be the front desk receptionist at one of my campuses. And we did a group interview. And in the group interview, people came super dressed up. They had great resumes. There was about 10 or 11 people. And this young lady came in, and she sat towards the back. And I could tell she was looking around at everybody, and I could see the intimidation on her face. That she almost felt as though, wow, maybe I'm not qualified for this. But one of the things we did as an exercise was you had to interview. We paired them up and have them interview each other, and they had to tell us why we should hire the other person. And it was a exercise to show if they could separate their own selfish opportunity to be objective. And she by far did the best. And maybe the reason she did the best is because mentally she was assessing people and giving them more credit than herself. And because she came off as being that selfless, she was the one we hired. And I remember her crying because she thought she had no shot at getting the job. And it was that exercise that set her apart. Not only did she become my front desk person, that only lasted a little while because I promoted her and she became an admissions representative because she related so well to the students and became one of my top admission representatives. That's from huge. A job that she didn't even think she was going to get.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, I have sort of a similar one. I think to me, one of the, and this is kind of where I really learned the emotional side of your team members, where I had a designer that I initially hired because she's good at designing. She was a great team player, but where she was breaking down was the attention to detail. And so we were getting a lot of complaints from not just, the complaints from the team is like, her dropping the ball and the things that needed to get done. She was only doing half the things she was supposed to do. And she wasn't doing it intentionally. It's just kind of her mind was just not operating that way. So it got to the point, I mean, I gave her time. I worked with her. I tried to see if I can fix that issue. But she just never got around, and she just kept getting frustrated because she knew she was struggling. So finally, that one day, I called her to the office, and I was going to let her go because there's just nothing else that I was going to do that I could do. I felt like I already exhausted every resource possible. But my thinking there was, I knew this was going to hurt the team because she was a team player and she loved being in the office. She loved being with the team. So it was killing me. So I was like, and I put it off for like, I'm telling you, she sat around maybe for a year.
That's a hard position to be in. Yeah.
So she comes into the office and I sit her down and she's like, she just starts crying. She's like, "You're going to fire me, right?" And I'm like, oh. And I didn't like the word fire. I go, "I know you're saying fire, but like, that's not, you know, and I explained to her, I said, the issue is that, you know, when there's so many complaints now, like I've tried fixing it. We're just not rounding that corner. And I don't see how we're going to do that right now.
Yeah.
And so I have to put somebody in your position that can hold and carry that weight. But then she confesses to me, like she not confesses, but she starts telling me how she loves being there and how she looks. And she starts breaking down her day of all the things that she enjoys. I was like, I was willing to take a pay cut to pay her. But I didn't do that. So I said, you know what? So at the time I was hiring, I had an open position for a coordinator. So her biggest problem, mind you, was detail, attention to detail. And I don't know what hit me because I was like, I can't lose this person because it's going to kill morale.
Right.
And it's just going to destroy what I have going on right now.
Yeah.
So I put her into a coordinator position, which is logically doesn't even make any sense. But what I felt was that passionately, if she knew that I was willing to put her somewhere else,
she'd step up.
And she did. She loved it. She's like, I actually like doing this more than I like the graphic design part. I'm like, holy, that's incredible. I've never even heard anybody, because it's usually a coordinator that wants to go and do design stuff. So that blew my mind. And the plus on that was huge because I got a huge boost from the team, because everybody's like, well, he just didn't fire her, because they knew I was going to let her go. Everybody knew it. But when they saw that I moved her to another position, bro, I saw how people that are synchronized in value could change an organization.
And I think what happened is that the two hardest things, as we talked about when we talked about cash, attitudes and habits, she had it. So the knowledge and the skills are something that can be adapted in another role or, you know, enhanced through additional training. And you were willing to tolerate her in a new position because some of the core things that were important to you and to your organization and to the other team members, she did have that. Had she not had that, I'm sure
it would have been done.
It would have been over. And
so it's a good point, because I think one of the biggest things we're currently suffering in the work field is that emotional side, and because a lot of people are kind of disconnected, and I think it's just because it's not, and I don't want to just blame the younger generation, because that's not fair either. I think it's a culmination of everything that's happened in society and how we are as people working. That's why like emotional intelligence has now just spiked in people researching and understanding and wanting to learn more, because that's what's happening. We're just having a communication breakdown. Yeah.
And I think with the advent of more remote work and not having that necessarily that synergy within the office and that collaboration, you know, as a leader, you have to, really work harder now to create that sense of and understanding each of if you're not seeing them every day, making sure that you're still tapped into their intelligence quotient, their work habits, all the things that make them good at what they do. So you can properly evaluate whether or not you can tolerate their situation, especially if they're struggling.
Great point. So with closing thoughts, you know, let's put this in perspective so we can close it out. So if we're speaking to somebody that's out there about to go to a job interview, what are we telling them today?
I think it's kind of the same thing we tell brands. Number one, be authentic. There you go. And really focus on, researching the company, researching as much as possible so that you're even competing for a place in which you know you can be successful. If you chase money and not look at the circumstance and situation that you're going to land in, you're going to find yourself a lot of times in a situation where you're not going to perform at your best because you're not invested.
It's a great point. I think, ultimately, just to shorten that, it's be authentic and, don't kid yourself. Like, apply for a job that you would really want to see yourself in, because, a lot of people get attracted by the number, like you said.
Absolutely.
And then they end up in a place that they're going to only last a couple of months anyway. So 100%. Why even put your energy there? I think it's really about harnessing who you are and going after something that you believe in. Yeah. And ultimately, that'll put you in a place that, like I just mentioned this example of this girl, you're going to survive.
Right.
and you can grow, you can expand. So I think it's truly important that, like I mentioned, the whole dare to be bold concept is that's where we stand today. Is we need to stay true to who we are and dare to be who we are, and that's that boldness of why we're even here. That's a whole nother that's a whole different podcast.
Well, it's a whole different podcast, but we're glad that we had this one.
Come on.
So happy that everybody was able to join us, and we're looking forward to do more, be more, and of course, be bold.
All right, guys. Take care.
Take care.
Of her mind.